welcome everyone. Today's conversation I am super excited about. I mean, if you know me, you know when it comes to agility, agile as a way of work, agile as a way of life, just anything agile, it just excites me. I think it's just a box of so many things that we can all learn, even as professionals, individuals, regardless of what hat we wear. And so this conversation is not just about an event, it's about really one of the major ecosystems, global ecosystems that is behind this event. And as many of you are aware, agile industry, agile as a career, continues to be in this visible transition. We are way beyond just facilitating ceremonies. We're thinking about leadership capabilities. We are transitioning from roles into responsibilities and thinking about credibility instead of just anchoring our identity on certification. And so in moments like this, community matters way more than ever. And that is why today's conversation, again, I'm excited about because we're going to be talking about the power of volunteering, the power of one of the global communities that exist, and also just sharing from our wonderful, very, very talented and expert guest about just even her own journey as an agile practitioner. So today, I am joined by Susie Loveless, who is the Scrum Master for the Global Scrum Gathering powered by Scrum Alliance, and someone who has not only participated in the Agile community, but she helps continue to help shape through leadership and through service. So what I am particularly interested in today is not just about exploring what Scrum Gatherings offers, but just even also what volunteering unlocks and also what she's seeing in the agile space as well. Because if we're being honest, most of our leadership journey and the formative part of our leadership journey doesn't just happen in our job. It also happens in spaces where we say yes, where we raise our hands, and where we just, leverage our expertise and build community. So, with that being said, I am going to hand it over to our wonderful guest today, Susie Loveless. Welcome, Susie.
I am really glad to be here. Thank you for
Welcome. Thank you for being here as well. And to kick us off, just tell us more about your journey.
absolutely. So I didn't actually start out in IT at all. I started out in the nonprofit industry and was there for about 10 years. And I'll tell you what that did. It taught me how to work really hard. It taught me how to utilize data to make decisions. It taught me really great program and project management. And so when the time came where I mean, truthfully, on a whim, applied for a role with a tech company, they called me and they said, you know what, you're not what's the word, you're not experienced enough for this certain role, but I think you'd be a great scrum master. And I said, literally, what's that? And so like it's brand new to me. But I think the thing that really drew me to tech was like the being the people role. A scrum master is about having heart, right? And to be able to be that for a team, I've always been kind of a work behind the scenes kind of girl. And so it was really exciting to support other teams, to be able to network and have that personal connection. So that's what brought me over here. I started as a scrum master, and very quickly after that, at my company, they created a scrum trainer role. And I thought, I love making resources. Like I love, creating content. I was like, I'll apply for this. And let me tell you, it was a big undertaking because nothing existed. There was no current training. There was nothing. So I was kind of starting building from the bottom up. But for me, it was really cool. I got to coach and kind of help mentor about like 85 scrum masters in my company.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was a really incredible opportunity that I don't know I would have had anywhere else. After that, my company decided they didn't want to be agile anymore. And so I became a PMO trainer. And yeah, it's been a kind of across the board, and eventually ended up moving industries or within tech, but moved over to utilities. And now I'm over at Genworth Financial as an Agile Program Coach. So I think with every role, I've kind of grown the scope and responsibility. And so now I'm sort of putting all that together as a program coach for a portfolio of teams.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is a journey. First of all, from asking what is Scrum Master to creating resources and
Yeah.
training Scrum Masters, and then even moving over to PMO, and now like
It's been,
something you said that was very powerful. You said Scrum is about heart.
yeah, I think so.
I think that is just beautiful because people might be like, okay, so how do we measure heart? But really, heart is at the center of people. And most of the time, we take away the humanity out of the technical portion of what we're doing, but everything has to collide together even for any organization to be agile,
And
right?
you think about what motivates people. Like the thing that motivated my teams and made them able to like talk with me and work hard and surface vulnerabilities that they knew that I cared about them and
Yeah.
that I had their backs, right? And like you don't get that without heart.
Yes. And even through your journey, too, I'm also hearing about applying, even if you think that you're not qualified, because if you don't give yourself that chance, then how are
Yes.
you going to know if it's going to be a win or a lesson? Because if you
Yes.
haven't applied, how, I mean,
And my whole life would be different right now. I have to be honest with you. You know, it's I get this question a lot. There's a lot of people who are interested in joining the industry. And there are so many roles that easily translate into tech, into being a scrum master. Teachers, my goodness, teachers make great scrum masters, right?
yeah,
You're used
yeah.
to think about a teacher manages a whole classroom of 20 people. I mean, you can manage 30 children, you can manage 15 developers, you know?
Yep, absolutely. Study children and their parents and their uncles and aunties.
And the administrators, all the people, right? And so I try to help people as much as I can understand that this industry is accessible. You don't have to be a
Mm,
technical expert to be a really phenomenal scrum master or project manager.
yes,
This is what like has led my journey, right? It was all the experiences that I picked up along the way,
yes.
truthfully, in the nonprofit world. I brought those with me and came over here, and it's been such a good fit. And I found, when I found the scrum master role, I thought, is this real? Is this a real job? This is my dream job. This is great. I get to help people. I get to do all these things.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was real.
And, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, like to your point, when I found out about agility just as a way of work, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like this exists. When I was going through even just the Scrum, like the values and the principles and just the way the work is, I'm like, wow,
yeah.
this is me. This is how I want to work. This is how, literally as a person, this is how I want to be, right? And so it was just perfect.
I
It was
very
just
much agree.
perfect. All right, so we're also going to be talking about even just again the current state of Agile. I know for those who are watching this, perhaps who maybe don't know what agility is or Scrum is, don't worry, we're going to be able to break this down too. But what the current state of Agile is and where it's evolving, and some couple of misconceptions that are probably holding professionals back. Because you've shared some of them already about you don't have to be technical to work in this space. I mean, you came from nonprofit. You talked about even teachers they already have the skills
Mhm.
to be able to thrive in this space. And there are other roles to where you can bring your transferable skills in and excel in this. And then we're going to talk about how strategic, volunteering is and the power of saying yes. Because again, just from your story at the beginning, it was yes, yes, yes that have led you into here. And how can professionals meaningfully stay, plugged into the ecosystem? So bringing it back here, because of course, people are saying, and if you're, I mean, on LinkedIn, for every three posts, you might see one that talks about the the
Agile is
agile.
dead. Are you going to say it? I can't. I
Yes.
can't.
What are your thoughts about that?
Agile is not dead. At what's happening, in my opinion, is that
Yes.
working in an agile manner and having an agile mindset is becoming more ingrained into people how they naturally work, right? So they're not naming it agile. They're just like, you know what we should do? My company is great. My old company is a great example of this. They were like, we're not doing agile anymore. But you know what we should do? We should have a quick touch base every morning, real short and sweet for like 15 minutes. And I thought, a daily stand up, right? So there's a lot of companies and a lot of organizations that are taking these agile principles and they're baking them in as just like a standard of working, but they're not calling it agile anymore.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
also think there's a really big misconception. When I started the company that I was working with, they were fully Scrum. And, being a Scrum team is a prescribed method. It is very structured.
Mm,
And I remember when I first joined, they were like, if you're not doing it this way, you're not doing it right.
mm,
And I think as time has gone on, we know teams have different contexts, teams have different needs, and
right.
you have to have some flexibility in that. And so if you're thinking about true to the letter Scrum, Agile, maybe that is dead. I don't know, right? But what I do know is like if you think about agility as a way of thinking and a mindset, it is thriving. It is just it's shifted to fit what the need is. A
Yeah.
lot of companies are not hiring scrum masters anymore
Mm,
for financial reasons or the state of the economy, whatever. But that role is being done by someone on the team, believe
that's
me,
right. That's
right?
absolutely right.
Whether it's a developer, whether it's
An
we have
engineer.
intent managers,
Mm,
So
Intent managers? Wow.
yes. So my point is that it's not going anywhere. I think people are crazy to think that. You may see less roles pop up for a traditional scrum master,
Mhm.
but I do think that role is necessary, and we're still seeing it across the board. Where I work now, we
Mhm.
don't have any scrum masters. We
Mhm.
have agile coaches, right? And so I have a portfolio of 10 to 11 teams that I kind of work across, and it's a higher level. But again, like, it's showing how a company has pivoted, but like the work is still there and the need is still there.
Mhm.
So this
Absolutely.
agile is dead thing is, I disagree wholeheartedly.
And I'm with you on that too. I think a couple of years ago, I did call it out that companies are going to be transitioning where everyone is going to be an agile practitioner. I mean, I know the statement before we always say as an agile practitioner or coach, delivery lead, whatever hat you are, scrum master, your goal is to work yourself out of a job, right? To be able to make sure that your teams are literally agilists in how they operate. Because then if you become that roadblock, then it's almost counterintuitive as to why you're in there. And to your point, absolutely, a lot of organizations have pivoted, right? Because even with how technology is evolving and everything is rapid, the state of just even delivery is so rapid. If you're not agile, literally fundamentally as a culture, you are not going to survive.
You will fail, yes, without
You're
a
not going
doubt.
to survive. And so, and I know also some organizations probably, when it comes to agile as a word or scrum as a word, they might cringe, perhaps because they've had bad experiences or whatever that
Yes.
is. So I have empathy where people might resist it because of a bad experience that they've had and they've used that brush across everything. But honestly, it's everyone literally being an agile practitioner, how they work and how they think, and putting that value out there, getting that feedback, having that continuous collaboration, how they work, and just delivering, with customer at top of their mind. So, yes, and yes, agility is definitely not dead. I think it's just become almost common now.
Yes. It's
Just,
intuitive. It's ingrained in what we're doing. So I'm like, if anything, it's more alive than
I
ever.
was about to say, like, if anything, that is a great success metric right there.
Yeah.
If yeah. So I want to know more about your current space of work now because you talked about, your title. And before we started recording, I was like, I feel like your title is like three rows in one,
Yeah.
Agile Program Coach. And
Yes.
we already, alluded to that where companies are not following like that because every company has its own context and nuance. And I used to tell, my students back then, like, I would know the degree of your expertise and experience by how you work with an organization or with a team that is not following the status quo. If you say we have to do it by the book, to me, that's already a major red flag, honestly. And so again, companies have their own unique thing going on, but they still want to deliver. They still want to get customers, something in their hand. So tell me more about your environment and what's going on with that almost three role in one title.
Yeah. So it's been really interesting. I had never heard of this title before. And the thing that was most surprising to me is that there were no scrum masters, right? So I'm used to coaching other scrum masters. And so I think it's a good combination of an agile coach role and a program manager role, right? So I am responsible for my companies. They're transferring where they store their data, right? They're moving to cloud. So I'm responsible for that entire program and the
Right.
teams all with under that. And it ends up being, depending kind of on the day and who's saying what teams are included, around 11 teams. And so it's tricky because I'm not at the ground level as a scrum master in every meeting, right? So
Mhm.
I think it's harder a little bit to build those relationships because I'm in and out of meetings all day long. But one thing I'm trying to bring to that group is a standardized, like baseline way of operating. And I
Yeah.
don't standard like everything has to be the same, but we need some kind of standards. It's like we agree this is the
Right.
base for how we're going
Right.
to operate. And so really a lot of my work, that's like the program side of things, right? Is really trying to make sure that we operate as a cohesive unit.
Right.
And a lot of that is so that our data rolls up to leadership and they can understand what they need to understand.
Mm.
Because right now it is the Wild West out here. I don't know what's going on. I've been in this role about 4 months, and every day I'm like, okay, we'll figure it out. And so yeah, a lot of that is, the influencing, motivating of an agile coach and bringing those principles in, but then also thinking of it as a program and
Program
how to make the program thrive.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about even how let's talk about global Scrum gathering,
Yeah.
right? And how is it continually evolved to reflect where the industry is actually going. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, listen, first of all, I want to go back to your thing about, talking about Agile is dead. Let me tell you how I know that it's not. I've been involved with the Global Scrum Gathering since 2023. But this last November, I had a chance to be a part of the first ever regional Scrum Gathering in Central America.
Wow.
Um, and they have never had anything of that nature. And so Central America is often very forgotten, right, in terms of conferences and where things are. And for a first year, we had 250 people show up, and they came from 17 countries, right?
Wow.
And there was such a thirst for that knowledge and a
Wow.
desire to be a part of that community. Like that's how I know it's not dead.
Yes.
It is alive, and it's building momentum. They're planning for the next regional one. Um,
Wow.
and so, yeah, I think it's interesting. That's a little bit of a different perspective than a global Scrum gathering because it's just starting out. But I think what I see in both areas is that people flock to these conferences because I think I think sometimes Scrum Master work or even Agile Coach work can feel lonely.
Mm.
Sometimes it's like you're trying to influence a bunch of people who don't necessarily understand or agree with how you're working. And so those conferences are life-giving to me
Yeah.
because I meet people like I met you, right?
Yes.
People who we can say, "Oh gosh, we're having these problems or having these things." And someone will say, "Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Let me talk to you about this." A fun fact, actually, my role that I'm in currently, actually my last two roles, really have to do with the global Scrum gathering and the people that I met there.
Wow.
So my current boss was a squad member with me in 2023. And so I only knew about this job because he posted it on LinkedIn, and I only know about it because of the global Scrum gathering.
Wow.
So
That
yeah, the network is incredible.
I love that. That had literally has answered most of the questions that I had for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's changed my trajectory, right? Like, I think too, when you work alongside someone as a volunteer and you keep saying yes, right?
Yes.
I think that is so huge. Going into this, let me be honest, I applied to be a volunteer for for the Global Scrum Gathering because I didn't think my company would pay for it. And I thought, okay, if I can volunteer, they can pay my admission ticket, right? So at least they'll cover that. And then I got there, and truthfully, now that I'm on the other side of it and I looked through applications, we had 150 applications for
Wow, it's
the
volunteer.
one in Germany, right? So I'm like, I am lucky I even got picked. I don't know. I got a great application. But I'm not sure where I was going with that.
You're talking about volunteering because you weren't sure you're going to get picked.
Oh, right. So I get there and then I'm around all these other people and it's crazy because you just see people who are in different parts of their journey than you are. So
Yeah.
right, like Sheikah Carter is a great example of this. I think she's trying to be like a CST now, but I saw her and I was like, you were awesome. Right? I was like, this is a woman who is just killing it. She's doing, and it gave me a lot of inspiration in terms of like what I could be. And I live in Oklahoma City. We don't have a big agile population here.
Mm.
Right? And so to see other people from other parts of the world doing all these different things, I think it really inspired me and pushed me to know what's possible for myself.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. 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 Okay. First of all, when I attended, right,
Mhm.
or go for any of this, local Scrum graduates, I always feel like I'm charged. Like like I feel like I'm just being poured into because typically I go and I'm pouring. Maybe I'm coaching, teaching, speaking, whatever, whatever capacity is, letting people know about what this is. But being in a place where it's like just fill me up to overflow. Like it is so exhilarating and I think so powerful. And to your point, being able to even see other practitioners, maybe either with different roles or just different backgrounds, working at different places, just I would definitely say very powerful. And thank you for talking about even how your volunteering has led to you being the roles that, oh my goodness, because I was about to ask you about what do most professionals misunderstand about the power of saying yes?
Oh man. I think sometimes people think saying yes will detract from their like 9 to 5 job. I'm really, really lucky. I work for a place now where anything that's outside, so like this is during business hours, right? But when I spoke to my manager about it, he said, "Are these things that are gonna to bring you joy, like the joy and passion you need to come to work and be who you are?" Right? And the answer is yes, right? So I
Wow.
think it's like I think sometimes we think of saying yes or these extracurricular activities as taking away from the
Mm,
battery. We have a set amount of of power that we
Skill.
get. Yeah,
Yeah.
mental capacity of a physical. But I think like you alluded to this, like that you leave charged, right? So the global scrum gathering, there's different things you have to do to prepare throughout the year for that. Um, that I do during business hours that my boss fully agrees with. I'm
Mm,
helping out. They're kind of revamping a certification and they're having us, review some different things there. And I'm helping out with that as well. And, it's taking a chunk of my week every week,
mm,
but I think it keeps me connected to the community in a way I wouldn't otherwise be.
yeah.
And I think to your point, it like really brings me a lot of motivation so that I can go back to my job where, I'm one of we have multiple agile coaches at our current role, but prior to that, I was the only agile coach. I was
Right.
all alone, and so like that connection is life-giving for me. I have to have it or I'm gonna just cry in a hole somewhere, I mean, it's hard. You see this. There's going to be resistance to agile. There always will be, right? There's always,
Yes.
and you mentioned past trauma or whatever it is. And so I think it's really, really important. Say yes because you need that connection. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lifeline for you.
Absolutely. And if you talk about the skills that people develop through volunteering, what would you say maybe are the top three skills that come to mind for you?
Oh man, honestly, I want to kick myself for saying this, but like agility, like the ability to pivot in any way. So
Yes.
conference and something's going to go wrong and you just got to figure it out.
Mm,
Um, I think another part of this is being a self-starter. I think that's really huge. And I think it's huge for our industry. It's like you can't sit there and wait for someone to tell you what to do. It's about you recognizing a gap or a problem, coming up with a solution and implementing that solution. So I think that those are really big skills that I've learned. I also just think growing my knowledge of what other people are doing, what works for other companies, what doesn't work. It's given me greater perspective when I bring it back to my current company.
that's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. So agility, being a self-starter, and then learning from other people's experiences and bringing it back. So literally making you more well-rounded professional. Because
Yes.
again, even with this role too, it's very easy to be head down in the weeds and not even being able to look up. But being able to bring best practices back in literally makes you a more well-rounded professional. So if there's someone who's probably wanting to volunteer, but they feel like they're not ready, and I know you talked about part of your story, but if they feel like I'm not ready, I don't know what to say, I don't even know if I have the skills, like what would you say to that person?
So, as someone who is on the other side of this and who
Yeah.
selects candidates, what we try to do every time we're building out a Scrum squad is we try to have a diverse squad in terms of experience, location,
Mm,
all kinds of things like if you're in the industry, if you're not in the industry. And so, even if you are brand new, apply, apply, apply. It's always worth trying. I will say the other thing, as someone who has judged 150 applications, I know when it's AI, guys. So
mm.
when you're using those keywords and it's AI, like what I said earlier, Scrum, and this is about heart. And so the applications that stand out to me are the people who tell me who they are. They talk about who they
Mm.
are, why they want to be involved. And it's not an AI generated response. It's messy. It's whatever. It's like, I love sneakers and let me tell you about, but those are the things I remember about you.
Right.
Even if you're on the fence, apply. It doesn't hurt anything, right? And if you don't get it the first year, apply again. Absolutely apply again. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of people. I mean, we had 150 for Munich. Like,
Wow.
apply again. There's going to be an opportunity for you.
Yeah, keep applying, even if you're applying for the first time, even if you've never done this before. And
Yeah.
so how would you, I'd say maybe speak to a professional who's trying to evaluate if a volunteer opportunities align with their long-term goals? Yeah, how do you make that, measurement?
I think the most important thing for all of us in the world that we're in and the agile world, we have to continue growing. We have to continue pushing ourselves for our perspectives and our knowledge base. And volunteering is the easiest way to do that. So when
Yeah.
you're a volunteer at Global Scrum Gathering, you don't just like sit in a room and only do the behind the scenes thing. Part of that experience is attending the sessions that you want to go to.
Yeah.
We work our schedule around that. So sometimes it's also helping the speakers and getting a chance to like
Mm,
speakers more. I've made so many good connections that way. And just learned more about what they're doing. They said, "Hey, let's meet after the conference. We'll have a one-on-one coaching session." All
right.
those things are possible because you
Yeah.
volunteer.
Yeah. And going back to that too, I mean, just volunteering, because First of all, I met you there, of course. I remember when I was after my session of speaking, one of the volunteers like literally met me after, and we had like this deep conversation. She gave me feedback. She said certain things that I wasn't even thinking about because I was speaking. She, it was just really powerful. And we also seen them involved in the process. And I think even as a volunteer, well, actually, even as an attendee, being open to making connection, because even like just chatting with someone and saying hello, and they will say hello back, and I think it's so important that when you go to such spaces that you open up yourself to want to receive, want to learn, and ask questions, because that's how one of the ways you definitely get the benefit of being in that room. It was such a really, really, powerful space, I would say for sure. All right, so as we're kind of like rounding up a little bit, when we think about agile leaders, right, the next generation or the now generation, what would you say are the three core things or three core capabilities that they should have?
Oh boy. I think that's actually really interesting. When we think about that, it makes me a little bit excited when I think about, like, someone at my level. Oh, eventually, like if I was ever a director or whatever, and had that kind of influence, it
Yeah,
makes me excited because I think we see things a little different than maybe traditional leadership has, right? So
right.
I think some good changes are coming. Um, Gosh, three things. I think we have to go back to basics in a lot of ways, right? And
Mm,
this before, but it's like you can't always be so focused on a prescriptive way of working. The thing that I'm thinking about specifically for our company right now is focusing on flow, and really like what that means, right? So I mean, I'm not worried about anything else right now, but like, is this work flowing? So I'm taking it back a notch where it's like we don't have to tick every box.
mm,
Right now, we're working on getting this baseline where we have a even steady flow of work. And there's different ways, you can track that. So I think, again, like sometimes for a group, it's going to take stripping away some of the noise and going back to basics. I think there's going to always be that continuous learning piece. Things will
yes.
always continue to evolve, and practices will evolve, new tools will come up, right? Like, so I think that's part of it. The leaders themselves have to stay educated, right? So they've got to push for the continuing education. They've got to push for going to conferences. You've got to keep doing that.
Yeah.
Um, and then, gosh, I don't know. I think the last one is just like continue to be a champion. I mean, it's really hard to be in a space where it's been traditional project management and then people are just like, Agile, what is this thing? So part of it is just like showing up and saying, hey, I'm here. We're going to figure this out. Again, it's not necessarily prescriptive. You have to do this exact thing. Let
Mm,
me show you how this brings value.
mm,
So I think it's going to have a lot of nuance to it. And I think that's how you get people to understand how this does work and how it can work. It
yeah.
does work. We know it works, right?
Absolutely. And like you said, showcasing the value and not being prescriptive is very important. So for someone starting maybe in the
Mhm.
agile industry, agile space, wanting to be, have an agile role, what we say is the smartest move that they can make in their first 12 months?
Oh, wow. Keep learning. Get on LinkedIn Learning. Do that. Scrum
Mhm.
Alliance has got a great
Yes.
portfolio of things to learn from. If you can, if your company's willing to pay for it, take a certification course. You get to know trainers, you get to know other participants, and then just like start plugging in, right? They have micro credentials now. They
Yeah.
have on LinkedIn all the time, I see sessions that people are doing that are free sessions. Go start to know people, ask questions. This is a great community of people. Truthfully, I feel like I found my people in the agile world, and nobody's going to be mean to you and say, "Hey, Stella, like you're asking me a dumb question, and I don't care." No one's going to say that. So,
Hmm.
like, really get out there, continue learning, and then just and meet people every chance you get.
Yeah. And hey, shameless plug, I do have a link for micro credentials from Alliance. I'm going to put that
Right?
somewhere
There you
in the
go. Take it right
caption.
there.
Take
Keep
absolutely. Yes. Leverage, 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 all of that. So if I was to ask you what you wish you understood earlier in your journey, what would that be? Because I hear you say you found your community and people are like, okay, so how do I even get started? So this is two questions in one. Two questions in one, yes. How would someone just get started? I know you talk about going a course, certification, LinkedIn Learning, finding that community. You kind of like already answered the question, but let me assume there's another answer to this question, which is how do I find my community?
Yeah, so get started. If you know somebody who's in this community, reach out. I get a
Yeah,
million messages all the time saying, "Hey, I really want to be a
right.
Scrum Master. How do I do that?" And part of that is like doing some work on your own, watching some videos. I mean,
Yeah.
truthfully, I told you when this role came up, I was like, "What's a Scrum Master?" And so a lot of that is like going out on your own, asking the questions that, and ask somebody you know. I actually knew someone who
Mm.
was a scrum master for a team. And so when I was going through this, I messaged them and I said, can you tell me about your experience? They said, absolutely. Look at these videos. Here are the certifications that I have if
Yeah.
you're thinking about this long term. Like, it was someone who was willing to give their time and pour into me. And so when someone asks me that, that's what I do for them now.
Yes, that's powerful. Same for me as well too. It's, even when I have professionals who are looking to pivot, I've had teachers, I've had stay-at-home moms, I've had people who work in customer service, because a lot of people have given them this false information about, well, you have to be technical to work in this space or there's no role for you. And I'm like, do you know the amount of skills you've amassed over the years? It's about being able to share that narrative in a way that showcase the value that you can bring to this organization. And so thank you for, of course, always being open to helping others as someone has helped you as well too. And I think that's really how we can continue to build this community and get more agile champions in the space. And I love the tagline, like agile for anyone, agile for everyone, agile literally for any industry. And I think that's the message that we have to continue powering out there as well too. So all right. So, is there anything that you wish you understood earlier in your journey? Just in case there's someone who's like, okay, I'm going to get started. I'm all in. Stella and Susie have powered me. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. Yeah. They reach out to us first and we say, come
I
on,
know,
like,
right?
support you. I think it goes back to that technical piece. I felt
Mm,
overwhelmed at first. Let me even say in my first like 4 weeks of joining a team, first of all, I didn't know what a scrum master was. And then
right.
we changed our system. So we moved from something called U-Track to Jira. And I had no idea what we were doing. And I thought what was hard is that the team was looking to me for guidance. And I didn't know this.
Mm,
And so a lot of that is like showing up and being vulnerable, saying, hi, you know what? I don't know this system. I'm learning alongside of you. We'll figure it out together. Tell me your questions. I will search and I'll dig and I'll get those answers. But it goes back to like, you don't have to be technical to be great at your job. You learn, you're transparent about it. Somebody doesn't say, Susie, how does X, Y, and Z work? And I'm like, let me tell you, because guess what? I don't know. And that's okay. So when there are learning opportunities and a developer's talking about something, I'm like, could you tell me more about that? I'm really interested to learn. So showing interest and learning, but then just being really vulnerable and saying, that's not my wheelhouse. That's not my expertise. I am learning, right? I'll find any answers that we need to. But I wish I had been more confident in knowing that the skills that I do bring were meaningful, and I didn't
Yeah.
have to be the technical expert. Because guess what? That's not why they brought me there. They
Yeah.
didn't bring me there to be a developer. They brought me there to be a scrum master.
I love it. I absolutely love that. The skills that we bring in are already enough. And to your point, being able to even ask questions and say, can you tell me more about this? Continuous learning, being able to say, I can go and figure something out and we'll bring it back, but we're all learning together. And I think creating that culture is actually a safe space so that even the other engineers, developers, whatever title they have, know also that they don't also have to have all of the answers, right? Oh my goodness. Yeah, that openness, that transparency is so key. So for this year's Global Scrum Gathering now, as we're looking ahead, that's coming up, what is exciting you the most about that?
Oh, so there's all kinds of great stuff that are happening. First of all, it's in Vancouver. I've never been to Vancouver, so excited for that. Um, I think also, so sometimes the ones over in Europe are a little bit smaller. I think we're anticipating like 500 something people. So just think about the buzz that happens with that.
Yeah.
People is really exciting. This year also, I don't know if you know this, but they're doing micro credentials on site. So you can take the classes, right?
Nice.
And so I just think like as an attendee, there's so much there. I mean, going to sessions, there's also the social aspect, like the Monday mingle, where you
Yeah.
get to know people. Going to the coaching clinic, man, I didn't understand that at first. And I went actually at the regional Scrum gathering in Guatemala and asking questions,
Mm,
valuable questions. I came back with so much insight. The
yeah.
other thing that I did, and I spent a lot of time doing, is talking to participants, not participants, sorry, to
Because
speak. Yeah, and I said, "Hey, I really loved your session. I would love to, and just building that because that has changed the way I think about many different things. It's changed my support. So, yeah, I think Vancouver is going to be an incredible conference. I'm just excited to see it come together. I think the micro credentials, that's a cool thing that's never been done before.
yeah.
Scrum Alliance is listening to feedback
Yes,
and
yes.
they're trying to make these as impactful as possible.
Yes, I love that. I participated in one of the coaching clinics too last time, and literally it was a whiteboard session. I was
Yeah.
asking questions and I can't remember his name, but he took his time to explain and it just felt like, okay, I think I have a solution to a major problem that I'm facing at work. So I'm gonna I'm gonna take that back in. And I was a speaker, and so even I still had opportunities to leverage all of the experiences. That was the Global Scrum Guide. And so having micro credential on the spot this time, that is definitely top notch, for sure. And so what would you say for any professional who's thinking about how do I stay plugged in even beyond the conference?
Get connected on LinkedIn. It's so funny. My friends not in this industry kind of tease me because they're like, "You're always talking about LinkedIn." Man, the agile community is big there. That's how I know. So
Yes.
you know when you're doing a certain, a talk. That's how I know about. And yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I can see that some other practitioners have some things coming up. So get connected on LinkedIn. I think at the conference, connect with as many people as possible that are meaningful connections, and then go to people's trainings. If you're doing a free training, Stella, I want to come and see what you're talking about, right? Because I think it's about building this community of people. We all want the same thing. We
That's
all are
good.
like-minded people, right? So I want to see this thrive and I want to see us all be successful. And I'm going to continue to support that in any way I can.
That is just beautiful. Thank you again and again, Susie. We have come to the end of today's interview chat. Was there anything else you had in mind that maybe I didn't ask you, but something else you want to share with our listeners today?
I just like, I'll reiterate, just if you're interested, if you're new to this world, just like reach out to someone and ask. And if that person is maybe busy and doesn't respond, reach out to someone else. There are people like you and like myself, right? Like we want to help people. I want to see the representation of who these people are. I want to see it grow. I want to see more women in this industry, right? I want to see
Yeah.
from countries that are underrepresented, right? I want to
Yeah.
see more diversity in this world. And
Yeah.
so if you have questions, like reach out. Somebody will help you.
You are speaking my language, and I'm not going to try to go into a rabbit hole now because I know we're wrapping up. But let me tell you, when I saw, I think it was Kwame, yeah,
Oh,
um,
love.
at the Global Scrum Gadget, I was like, wait, what?
Mhm.
Like I was super excited and I met other, Africans there and it was just blissful. And my goal ever since then is how do I get more of my people, more of our people in those places that they know what is possible so they can see that there's a space for them, there's a seat for them. Even getting my story shared or anything like it just brings so much representation. And people reaching out to me, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's possible. So see more African or people on the represented communities apply to speak to me. That is a major success metric. See more of them attend. I'm like, yes,
Let's
yes,
go.
yes. There's this agile leadership for anyone and for everyone. Don't take yourself out of the game before you give yourself an opportunity to apply. See more women own their spaces like yourself and others. I'm like, oh my goodness, because it's so
Yeah.
important.
Chills. I mean, truly, I have chills just talking about that. Even like
Yeah,
Spanish speakers, right? Non-native English speakers. There's a place for you.
yeah,
I think let me reiterate that. When I went to volunteer in Guatemala, I speak passable Spanish, but I am not fluent by any means. And so I put myself in a place where all the sessions were given in Spanish, all the volunteers spoke Spanish. And
Mm.
guess what? I was still able to lead them as their scrum master.
Wow.
Translate it, it supersedes language. Like that just shows you it's about a mental mindset, like, and a way of
Yeah.
working, and that we can transcend borders, language, race. I mean, all these things.
Yes, yes.
It is a powerful community.
You've definitely challenged me. I think I'm going to put myself in such situations too, because even as a person, as a professional, as a woman, being in that space makes you more well-rounded. You have more nuances and more just mental space for other people who might not speak your language, but still have the same heart as you. Because sometimes we get so closed in that we don't create opportunities to know what's out there in the world. Oh my goodness. Whew, this has been such a fun, insightful, powerful conversation.
It's been great. Thank you so much.
I'm grateful for the gift of you, Susie, and all of the great work that you're doing. I'm definitely going to leverage and put all your information on somewhere in the caption or in the speaker notes so that people can also connect with you as well too. All right. Well, thank you again. And for everyone listening, please comment. Let us know what stood out to you. Let us know if you have any more questions. And please, there's the space for you in the agile world, in the agile community. There's a seat for you. It doesn't matter what industry you're coming from, what career path you've had, how old you are, or how young you are, the color of your skin, your gen, whatever that is. Literally, agile for anyone, agile for everyone. And we are rooting for you. Till next time, stay agile.